Hey guys, girls, and NB homies. I ran out of cigarettes, so I'm a bit testy, but you can call me Church. Welcome to Church on Monday, the show where I talk at you about shit I like, and I know I've said it before, but I love horror movies. I grew up watching the shit, and I actually grew up enjoying a much maligned subgenre. Those American J-horror remakes. You know, The Grudge, The Ring, Pulse. And I honestly still kind of like them to this day. I know, I know, I know, I know. But because the original material was so good, it's hard not to like at least the story and the visuals presented in the remakes. The fact of the matter is, I had never seen the originals, and they were kind of staples in my horror rotation, so it was a huge blind spot for me. I don't know why it's taken me this long to finally see what is heralded as one of the greatest J horror movies ever made, Ju-on The Grudge. Just Ju-on, but The Grudge is kind of the translation, you know. So I did finally get around to it, and I'm gonna get some more booze probably, but the American one is kind of a faithful remake. This guy. I am gonna go over the whole plot here with you, just so we can take this journey together. But honestly, if you've seen the American version, this won't be any spoilers. But if you haven't seen either, tons of fucking spoilers ahead. The entire thing's gonna get spoiled. Now we start off our journey with Rika. She's a volunteer at a social welfare center. So she checks up on elderly citizens. She's a caregiver, essentially. And she's sent to kind of do a welfare check on Sachi, who the welfare center hasn't heard from in a long time. Her or her family, who's taking care of her. So Rika goes to this house where Sachi lives, and as soon as she hits the gate, she gets this bad feeling, the wind gust, horror sting, bad feeling. She goes in the place and is fucking trashed. There's garbage everywhere, shoes are tossed, the slipper rack that they have. It's all tossed all over, there are piss stains on the carpet, and she finds Sachi just sitting in her own filth. And so she starts cleaning Sachi up, she starts cleaning the house up, finds mysterious pictures, all of this shit. And eventually she hears scratching and meowing from upstairs. So obviously we know some shit's gonna go down. She finds this room, it's small, it kind of looks like a child's room, and she hears more meowing from this taped up closet, and she tears the tape off the closet, finds the cat, and she's relieved. And then she looks down, and there's this pale, almost fucking desiccated child sitting underneath it. And she's like, holy shit, I didn't know this family had a kid. And so she thinks the family has a kid, and they just haven't come home yet. So she's calling the social welfare thing. She's like, fuck do I do with this kid? And they're like, just stay there, wait for the parents to come home. And so then she hears Sachi repeating words like, I told her it was a bad idea, or something like that. And she goes into Sachi's room, and she sees her face, and her face is horrified, and she's like, what the fuck is going on? And then suddenly she sees this ghost looming over Sachi, and Rika sees this ghost and literally fucking dies. Ugh. So then we go on to Katsue and Katsumi's story. Now this is the couple that lived in the house with Sachi. This is the husband and wife that took care of her. Katsue is Sachi's son. So they're just kind of going about their day. They're picking up trash because they think that his mom is just leaving trash all over the house, even though they never see her fucking move. But It's very reminiscent of what we saw when Rika first entered the house. So they're planning on having dinner with Katsua's sister, Hitomi, and when he comes home from work, the place is trashed. He can't find Kazumi, and he goes upstairs into the cat kid room where we saw Rika find the kid, and he just finds his wife paralyzed by fear laying on the bed in there. And he hears the meowing and the scratching and all of that shit, and she's just laying there paralyzed by fear, still breathing. But so he encounters the cat kid, and this is the classic image from the Grudge or Ju-on, one of the many. The cat kid runs off, and then suddenly Katsumi literally fucking dies. Ugh. And suddenly, Katsuya is just possessed. And he looks fucking creepy and sinister and like he's about to fucking murder someone. So his sister shows up at the house for their, planned dinner. And you think, oh, he's gonna fucking kill her. But no, luckily he has enough restraint to just send her out in the fucking rain. And that's kind of where we cut off with that story. Then we jump over to Hitomi, and she's going back to an apartment. I'm a fucking pig, so I just want to mention she's one of the most attractive women I've ever seen. And she's in her apartment building. She goes into the public restroom there, and she sees a fucking ghost. So she's freaked the fuck out. She goes to the security guard. He looks over the tape and he's like, yeah, I see you running out of there. And so he goes to check it out. She's watching the tape as he's approaching the bathroom, and she watches him just get fucking consumed by this entity. And before she sees the result of this, she fucking bolts. She's like, I'm going to my apartment. I want to be safe right now. I don't blame her. On her way up, you see the cat kid staring at her on each floor of the elevator. Very creepy imagery, which I'm pretty sure is ripped off verbatim for the American version. So she's in her apartment, she's been calling Kazumi and Katsue, and finally Katsue calls her back, and she hears him on the phone. He's like, I'll come right over. And so she checks the door, he's there, she opens the door, he disappears, and then she's like, fuck this phone. And I love it. Here, let's just quickly watch a quick replay of that scene. So fuck this phone, I'm going to bed. So she, like anyone, hides under the covers, and then she literally fucking dies. Ugh. So then we're thrust into a chapter called Toyama. At the beginning of this chapter, we see the welfare worker who sent Rika to the house, going to the house to figure out what the fuck happened to her, because she hasn't been at work. And surprise, surprise, she didn't literally fucking die. He finds her there and Sachi there. I think Sachi's dead, but she's still like clutching her face in horror or some shit. There's a lot of this left open, and that's okay. But Rika's alive. They find her, and he calls the cops immediately because she's still paralyzed in fear in the corner after I don't even know how long. The cops come, and they find the cell phone number to Katsuya, and they call it, and suddenly they hear a ringing, and it's upstairs. And so they go up to the cat kid room, and they hear the ringing faintly, and they push into the attic in the closet where Rika initially found the cat kid. And they push through, and they look up, and they see Katsuya and Kazumi, dead in each other's arms. So they're freaked out. They pull the files for this house and they find out that there was someone who investigated the initial murders in this house. A family who the husband and wife were found dead in the attic and the kid was never found again. And so blah blah blah, scary shit happens. Then Toyama decides that he's going to burn the fucker down. He's done with this fucking house. He's done with these deaths and disappearances. He's just grabbing these giant fucking jugs of gasoline and burning it down. And so as soon as he starts splashing the gasoline everywhere, he starts tripping off the fucking fumes and sees visions of Izumi, who is presented earlier in the movie, not much earlier, but a little bit earlier in the movie when he's re-recruited to be his young daughter, like, I don't know, grade school age. But in these visions, she's like a teenager. So he's a little freaked out. And then the two cops who initially recruited him back into this case come in and they get fucking killed by the ghost. And we don't see any of the three of them again. But we do then cut to Izumi. This is Izumi Toyama. This is the daughter of the detective. And she's just a high school girl. She's hanging out with her friends. And her friends bring pictures of her to her at her house. And when she opens the door to her room, she is not looking fucking good. She starts freaking out, saying, "Oh, the three are always watching me. They want to have revenge," or some shit like that, you know. And it turns out that she was in a group of 4 who went to the house because it was haunted, and the other 3 didn't get out on time. So they've been consumed by the house and are now being used to pursue Izumi. And so eventually they appear at her house and they take her. You know how this goes. Then we cut to a chapter called Kiyako. And we have found out through like the newspaper clippings and all of that shit that that's the name of the wife from the initial murder. So you're like, oh, this is going to be the whole origin story. It actually cuts straight to Rika and explains how she's still fucking haunted by this house. Even though she's lasted the longest, she's essentially our last girl. But she's going out with her friend Mariko, and she finds out there's this mysterious student that she has to do a house call on. So Mariko goes to this house call to meet the parents, and she's confused. She's like, the kid's only here, and she calls Rika. She's, kind of freaking out, and Rika hears that cat sound in the background, and she's like, oh shit, she went to the house. So Rika goes back to the house and learns the truth of the murders, how the wife entity is trying to protect people that are in connection with the house by scaring them away, and the actual murderer is the husband who murdered her. And he's the malevolent ghost who's been killing everybody. Kind of. It's all kind of loosey-goosey, and I like that a lot. So here are my thoughts. I liked this film a lot, of course. I like even the fucking remake a lot, so. It has a very effective and unique sense of dread that it builds. And this curse feels apocalyptic, honestly. Like, the way it makes connections to its curse Like, if you know someone who's haunted by the house, you might get fucking haunted. It feels like you could stumble upon a ghost town where everyone's been consumed by this fucking house. And that's honestly scary. It kind of feels like a fucking Silent Hill prequel. And I enjoy how it doesn't really explain a lot of it. This is a shortcoming with the American one, is it just explains fucking everything. This one has the explanation within it, but it doesn't hold your fucking hand. It doesn't say, this is exactly what fucking happened, the limits of this place, and what's going on. It trusts you to comprehend that. And yeah, the special effects are a little shitty, but like the practical ones are good, and it doesn't rely too much on that, honestly. It's a great fucking film. I'm not gonna give it a rating out of 10 or any fucking thing, because I don't owe you shit. But I will say, man, if I saw my wife climbing down the steps like that, I'd probably fucking cap her too. To quote an admirer of mine recently on Twitter, Nyoko, get fucking job, comma. That's it for this week. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. As always, love ya. Bye. Watch me move.